Book 4, Canto 5, The Legend of Cambel and Telamond. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Faerie Queene by Edmund Spenser, Book 4, The Legend of Cambel and Telamond, Canto 5. The ladies for the girdle strive of famous Florimel. Scudamore, coming to Carey's house, doth sleep from him expel. It hath been through all ages ever seen, that with the praise of arms and chivalry the prize of beauty still hath joined been, and that for reasons special privity. For either doth on other side much rely. For he meseems most fit the fair to serve, that can her best defend from villainy. And she most fit his service doth deserve, that fairest is, and from her faith will never swerve. So fitly now here cometh next in place, after the proof of prowess ended well, the controverse of beauty's sovereign grace, in which to her that doth the most excell shall fall the girdle of fair Florimel, that many wish to win for glory vain, and not for virtuous use, which some do tell, that glorious belt did in itself contain, which ladies ought to love and seek for to obtain. That girdle gave the virtue of chaste love, and wivehood true, to all that did it bear. But whosoever contrary doth prove, might not the same about her middle wear, but it would loose, or else asunder tear. Whilome it was, as fairies wont report, Dame Venus' girdle by her esteemed dear, what time she used to live in wively sort, but laid aside when so she used her looser sport. Her husband Vulcan, whilome for her sake, when first he loved her with heart entire, this precious ornament, they say, did make, and wrought in Lemno with unquenched fire, and afterwards did for her love's first hire give it to her for ever to remain, therewith to bind lascivious desire, and loose affections straitly to restrain, which virtue it for ever after did retain. The same one day when she herself disposed to visit her beloved paramour, the god of war, she from her middle loosed, and left behind her in her secret bower, on Acidalian mount, where many an hour she with the pleasant graces wont to play. There Florimel in her first ages flower was fostered by those graces, as they say, and brought with her from thence that goodly belt away. That goodly belt was Cestus hight by name, and as her life by her esteemed dear. No wonder then, if that to win the same so many ladies sought, as shall appear, for peerless she was thought that did it bear. And now by this their feast all being ended, the judges, which thereto selected were, into the Martian field adown descended, to deeme this doubtful case, for which they all contended. But first was question made, which of those knights that lately tourneyed had the wager won. There was it judged by those worthy wights that Satyrane the first day best had done, for he last ended, having first begun. The second was to Triamond behight, for that he saved the victor from fordone. For Cambel victor was in all men's sight, till by mishap he in his foeman's hand did light. The third dayes prize unto that stronger knight, whom all men termed Knight of the Hebene Spear, to Britomart was given by good right, for that with puissant stroke she down did bear the salvage knight. That victor was Whilear, and all the rest, which had the best afore, and to the last unconquered did appear. For last is deemed best, To her therefore the fairest lady was adjudged for paramour. But thereat greatly grudged Artegall, and much repined, that both of victors meed, and eke of honour she did him forestall. Yet mote he not withstand what was decreed, but inly thought of that despitefull deed fit time to wait avenged for to be. This being ended thus, and all agreed, then next ensued the Paragon to see of beauties praise, and yield the fairest her due fee. Then first Cambello brought unto their view his faire Cambina, covered with a veile, which being once withdrawn, most perfect hue and passing beauty did eftsoons reveale, that able was to weake hearts away to steale. Next did Sir Triamond unto their fight the face of his deare Canacee unheale, whose beauties beame eftsoons did shine so bright, that dazed the eyes of all, as with exceeding light. And after her did Paridel produce his false Duessa, that she might be feene, who with her forged beauty did seduce the hearts of some, that fairest her did weene. As diverse wits affected diverse beene. Then did Sir Pharamond unto them shew his Lucida, that was full faire and sheene, and after these an hundred ladies moe appeared in place, the which each other did outgo. All which whoso dare think for to enchace him needeth fure a golden pen, I weene, to tell the feature of each goodly face. For since the day that they created beene, so many heavenly faces were not feene assembled in one place. Ne he that thought for kienfolk to portrait beauties queene, by view of all the fairest to him brought, so many faire did see, as here he might have sought. At last the most redoubted Britonesse her lovely Amoret did open shew, whose face discovered plainely did express the heavenly portrait of bright angels hue. Well weened all, which her that time did view, that she should surely bear the bell away, till Blandamour, who thought he had the true, and very Florimell did her difplay, the fight of whom once feene did all the rest difmay. For all afore, that feemed faire and bright, now bafe and contemptible did appeare, compared to her, that fhone as Phoebes light amongft the leffer ftars in evening cleare. All that her faw with wonder ravifht were, and weened no mortal creature fhe fhould be, but some celeftiall fhape, that flefh did beare. Yet all were glad there Florimell to see, yet thought that Florimell was not so faire as fhe. As guilefull goldfmith, that by fecret skill with golden foyle doth finely overfpread some bafer metall, which commend he will unto the vulgar for good gold inftead, he much more goodly gloffe thereon doth fhed, to hide his falfhood, than if it were true. So hard this idol was to be arread, that Florimell herfelf in all mens view she feemed to passe. So forged things do faireft shew. Then was that golden belt by doome of all granted to her, as to the faireft dame, which being brought about her middle fmall, they thought to gird, as beft it her became. But by no meanes they could it thereto frame, for ever as they faftened it, it looft and fell away, as feeling fecret blame. Full oft about her was she it enclosed, and it as oft was from about her waist difclosed, that all men wondred at the uncouth fight, and each one thought as to their fancies came. But she herfelf did think it done for fpight, and touched was with fecret wrath and fhame therewith, as thing devized her to defame. Then many other ladies likewife tryde, about their tender loynes to knit the fame, but it would not on none of them abide, But when they thought it fast, eftsoons it was untied. Which when that scornfull squire of dames did view, he loudly gan to laugh, and thus to jest: Alas for pity, that so faire a crew As like can not be seen from east to west, Cannot find one this girdle to invest. Fie on the man that did it first invent, To shame us all with this, ungirt, unblest. Let never lady to his love assent, That hath this day so many so unmanly shent. Thereat all knights gan laugh and ladies lower, Till that at last the gentle Amoret Likewife affayd to prove that girdles power, And having it about her middle set, Did find it fit, withouten breach or let. Whereat the rest gan greatly to envy, But Florimell exceedingly did fret, And snatching from her hand half angrily The belt againe about her body gan it tie. Yet ne the more would it her body fit, Yet ne the less to her, as her due right, It yielded was by them that judged it. And she herself adjudged to the knight, That bore the Hebene speare, as one in fight. But Britomart would not thereto assent, Ne her own Amoret forgo so light For that ftrange dame, whofe beauties wonderment She less esteem'd then th'others vertuous government. Whom when the rest did see her to refuse, They were full glad, in hope themfelves to get her. Yet at her choice they all did greatly muse. But after that the judges did arret her Unto the second best, that loved her better. That was the Salvage knight, but he was gone In great displeafure, that he could not get her. Then was she judged Triamond his one, But Triamond loved Canacee, and other none. Though unto Satyran she was adjudged, Who was right glad to gaine so goodly meed. But Blandamour thereat full greatly grudged, And little praised his labours evill fpeed, That for to win the faddle loft the fteed. Ne leffe thereat did Paridel complaine, And thought t'appeale from that which was decreed, To fingle combat with Sir Satyrane. Thereto him Ate ftirred, new discord to maintaine. And eke with thefe full many other knights She through her wicked working did incenfe, Her to demaund and challenge as their rights, Deferved for their perils recompence. Amongft the rest with boaftfull vaine pretence Stept Braggadochio forth, and as his thrall Her claim'd, by him in battell won long fence. Whereto her felfe he did to witnefle call, Who being asked, accordingly confeffed all. Thereat exceeding wroth was Satyran, And wroth with Satyran was Blandamour, And wroth with Blandamour was Erivan, And at them both Sir Paridel did lowre. So all together ftirred up ftrifefull ftowre, And ready were new battell to darraine. Each one profeft to be her paramour, And vow'd with fpeare and fhield it to maintaine. Ne judges powre, ne reafons rule mote them reftraine. Which troublous ftirre when Satyrane aviz'd, He gan to caft how to appeafe the fame, And to accord them all this meanes deviz'd. Firft in the midft to set that faireft dame, To whom each one his challenge should disclaime, And he himfelfe his right would eke releafe. Then look to whom she voluntary came, He should without difturbance her poffefle. Sweet is the love that comes alone with willingnefle. They all agreed, and then that snowy mayd Was in the middeft placed among them all on her gazing wifht, and vowed and prayd, And to the Queene of Beauty clofe did call, That she unto their portion might befall. Then when she long had looked upon each one. as though she wished to have pleased them all. At last to Braggadochio, self alone, She came of her accord, in spite of all his fone. Which when they all beheld, they chaffed and raged, And wokes nigh mad for very hearts despite, That from revenge their wills they scarce assuaged. Some thought from him her to have reft by might, Some proffer made with him for her to fight. But he nought cared for all that they could say, For he their words as wind esteemed light, Yet not fit place he thought it there to stay, But secretly from thence that night her bore away. They which remained, so soon as they perceived That she was gone, departed thence with speed, And followed them in mind her to have reaved From wight unworthy of so noble meed. In which pursuit how each one did succeed, Shall else be told in order as it fell. But now of Britomart it here doth need The hard adventures and strange haps to tell, Since with the rest she went not after Florimell. For soon as she them saw to discord set, Her list no longer in that place abide, But taking with her lovely amoret, Upon her first adventure forth did ride, To seek her lov'd, making blind love her guide. Unlucky maid, to seek her enemy, Unlucky maid, to seek him far and wide, Whom when he was unto herself most nigh, She through his late disguisement could him not descry. So much the more her griefe, the more her toile, Yet neither toile nor griefe she once did spare, In seeking him that should her paine assoile. Whereto great comfort in her sad misfare Was Amoret, companion of her care, Who likewise sought her lover long miswent, The gentle Scudamore, whose heart whilere That strifeful hag with jealous discontent Had filled, that he to fell revenge was fully bent. Bent to revenge on blameless Britomart The crime, which cursed Ate kindled erft, The which like thornes did prick his jealous hart, And through his soule like poyfoned arrow pierft, That by no reafon it might be reverft, For aught that Glauce could or do or say. For aye the more that she the fame rehearft, The more it galled and grieved him night and day, That nought but dire revenge his anger mote defray. As they travelled, the drooping night covered With cloudy ftorme and bitter fhowre, That dreadfull feemed to every living wight, Upon them fell before her timely houre, That forced them to seeke some covert bowre, Where they might hide their heads in quiet reft, And fhrowd their perfons from that ftormy ftowre. Not farre away, not meet for any gueft, They spide a little cottage, like some poore mans neft. Under a fteep hills fide it placed was, There where the mouldred earth had caved the banke, And faft befide a little brooke did pas, Of muddy water, that like puddles ftanke, By which few crooked fallowes grew in ranke. Whereto approaching nigh, they heard the found Of many iron hammers beating ranke, And answering their weary turnes around, That feemed some blackefmith dwelt in that defert ground. There entring in they found the goodman felfe, Full bufily unto his worke y bent, Who was to weete a wretched wearifh elfe, With hollow eyes and raw bone cheekes forfpent, As if he had in prifon long been pent. Full black and grisly did his face appeare, Befmear'd with fmoke, that nigh his eyesight blent, With rugged beard and hoary fhagged haire, The which he never wont to combe or comely fheare. Rude was his garment, and to rags all rent, Ne better had he, ne for better cared, With blistred hands amongft the cinders brent, And fingers filthy with long nailes unpared, Right fit to rend the food, on which he fared. His name was Care, a blacksmith by his trade, that neither day nor night from working spared, but to small purpose iron wedges made. Those be unquiet thoughts that careful minds invade. In which his work he had 6 servants prest, about the anvil standing evermore, with huge great hammers that did never rest from heaping strokes which thereon soused sore. All 6 strong grooms, but one than other more, for by degrees they all were disagreed. So likewise did the hammers which they bore, like bells in greatness, orderly succeed, that he which was the last the first did far exceed. He like a monstrous giant seemed in sight, far passing Bronteus or Pyracmon great, the which in Lipari do day and night frame thunderbolts for Jove's avengeful threat. So dreadfully he did the anvil beat, that seemed to dust he shortly would it drive. So huge his hammer, and so fierce his heat, that seemed a rock of diamond it could rive, and rend asunder quite, if he thereto list strive. Sir Scudamore there entring much admired the manner of their work and weary paine, and having long beheld, at last enquired the cause and end thereof, but all in vain, for they for naught would from their work refraine, ne let his speeches come unto their ear, and eke the breathful bellows blew amain, like to the northern wind that none could hear. Those pensiveness did move, and sighs the bellows wear. Which when that warrior saw, he said no more, but in his armour laid him down to rest. To rest he laid him down upon the floor, whilome for venturous knights the bedding best, and thought his weary limbs to have redrest. And that old aged dame, his faithful squire, her feeble joints laid eke adown to rest, that needed much her weak age to desire, after so long a travell, which them both did tire. There lay Sir Scudamore long while expecting, when gentle sleep his heavy eyes would close, oft changing sides, and oft new place electing, where better seemed he mote himself repose. And oft in wrath he thence again uprose, and oft in wrath he laid him down again. But wheresoever he did himself dispose, he by no means could wished ease obtain. So every place seemed painful, and each changing vain. And evermore when he to sleep did think, the hammers sound his senses did molest. And evermore when he began to wink, the bellows noise disturbed his quiet rest, ne suffered sleep to settle in his breast. And all the night the dogs did bark and howl about the house, at scent of stranger guest, and now the crowing cock, and now the owl, loud shrieking him afflicted to the very soul. And if by fortune any little nap upon his heavy eyelids chanced to fall, eftsoons one of those villains him did rap upon his headpiece with his iron maul, that he was soon awaked therewithal, and lightly started up as one afraid, or as if one him suddenly did call. So oftentimes he out of sleep abraid, and then lay musing long on that him ill apaid. So long he mused, and so long he lay, that at last his weary sprite opprest, with fleshly weakness, which no creature may long time resist, gave place to kindly rest, that all his senses did full soon arrest. Yet in his soundest sleep his daily fear his idle brain gan busily molest, and made him dream those two disloyal were, the things that day most minds, at night do most appear. With that the wicked carle, the master smith, a pair of red hot iron tongs did take out of the burning cinders, and therewith under his side him nipt, that forced to wake He felt his heart for very paine to quake, And started up avenged for to be On him, the which his quiet slumber brake. Yet looking round about him none could see, Yet did the smart remaine, though he himself did flee. In such disquiet and heart-fretting paine He all that night, that too long night did passe. And now the day out of the ocean maine Began to peepe above this earthly masse, With pearly dew sprinkling the morning grasse. Then up he rose, like heavy lump of lead, That in his face, as in a looking glasse, The fignes of anguish one mote plainely read, And gheft the man to be dismayd with jealous dread. Unto his lofty fteed he clomb anon, And forth upon his former voyage fared. And with him eke that aged fquire at one, Who whatsoever perill was prepared, Both equall paines and equall perill shared. The end whereof and daungerous event Shall for another canticle be spared. But here my weary teame, nigh overspent, Shall breathe it felfe a while, after fo long a went. End of Canto 5, Book 4, The Legend of Cambel and Telamond.